I want to share an idea with you today about something that I've been thinking about for the last year or so, really. And that is about creativity and constraint. Two words that don't seem to go together at first. When we think about creativity, we think about endless opportunities. There's always more to do, and if we just add more to this, it'll get better. Constraint is like, oh, you're limiting my options, don't do that. How can those things go together? And for me, in the last year, I've found that the more constraints or direction that I give myself, the more creative I can actually become. And I want to talk through some examples that I've experienced and ways of my life that I've actually added constraint to be more creative. So when we think about creativity, it's kind of this buzzword that everyone wants to say, oh, I'm a creative. Like, what does that even mean? What does it mean that you're a creative? Is that a real thing? I think we're all just people who are able to create. I am a person who creates something, but being a creative without making anything doesn't make sense. Seth Godin says that real artists ship. Real artists put something into the world, they contribute something. I remember being younger in college maybe, and looking at things with a critical eye without actually producing anywhere near the amount of content that someone else had done. So I look at someone's work, I looked at someone's video or their design or their whatever thing and think, oh, that's not great, I could do so much better. But the key word was could, because I hadn't done so much better. I hadn't done anything. And I think a lot of us find ourselves in that armchair quarterback way. I don't like sports, but you get the analogy, right? Like you're just recapping other people's stuff and saying what you should have done. But that doesn't make you a creative. What makes you a creative is making something. And everyone has the potential and the opportunity to be creative. It's not limited to a certain class of people. I think all of us are capable of creating. That's just kind of in our DNA. It's kind of a thing that God has given us, the ability to make something. But how do we do that? I think one way we can do that is by adding constraint. And so for me, what this looked like was last year I participated in something called National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo for short. And in National Novel Writing Month, you have the month of November to write 50,000 words of a novel. And I've always wanted to write a book. I know a lot of people said, oh, I'd love to write a book one day. And I would be in that camp too. I've said that about myself. I'd love to write a book because you feel this kind of thing inside of you that you want to create, and then you don't because you don't write a book. And that's where I always found myself, was wanting to do something but not doing it. And so the constraint of you have 1 month, you have November to write 50,000 words, and you have to write a little over 1,200 words a day to get that number average, which means if you miss a day, you gotta write several thousand more. And if you miss 3 days, you gotta, you can't miss. You have to keep going. You have to keep marking it off every day, putting in the work, hand to keyboard. But here's what's incredible. In 30 days, not only did I write 50,000 words, I actually finished a rough draft of a novel. An idea that I had come up with pretty close to when NaNoWriMo started. I really had just the spark of an idea, just the tiniest little thought that turned into a book that people have read and critiqued and offered feedback. And I'm actually revising right now, and I'm going to write another novel. I'm going to write the second part of that novel series this year in November. And so by the end of this November, I will have written 2 books. I don't know what I'm going to do with those, but that doesn't really matter. I'm not looking to get rich or really become an author, right? I don't think most authors are rich anyways, but the point is I didn't write the book so I could be famous. I wrote the book so I could create something. And the constraint of National Novel Writing Month, the constraint of you have 30 days. You don't have 10 years, you don't have a lifetime to write this book, you've got 30 days. And once you start doing it and you get halfway into it, you're like, I gotta finish this because I've written 10,000 words, I can do this. I've written 25,000 words, I gotta do this. When I got to 30,000 words, there was no doubt in my mind that I was gonna finish it. And so I wrote more words in that month than I probably have in any other month, obviously in my life, and really maybe in any other year combined in 1 month of a consistent theme of work that turned into a fiction novel, which is crazy. And I never wrote fiction before this, but I found that I really enjoyed it. It's actually something that I like doing. In fact, I really loved doing it. And adding constraint helped me produce that content. I have been making some videos on YouTube using just my phone, which is what I'm using right now, hooked up to a microphone that plugs into the lightning port to get some decent audio, and I'm editing these on my iPad Pro. So I could use my Mac, I could use Final Cut, all these things that I've been trained in, but I'm adding constraint to this because I think it's gonna bring about some creativity. It's gonna bring about some ability to do new things and to actually do something and post things because there's constraint. It would be easy for me because I have lots of tools at my disposal. I have cameras and lighting and systems and more microphones and mixers and professional editing software and studio monitors and all this stuff. But what do I make with that? Nothing, right? I'm not making anything with that. And so the other day I pulled out my phone and I pulled out my iPad and said, you know what? I'm going to use this device that's sitting right here in front of me. I'm going to use this thing and edit videos on it. And I'm going to use my phone, the thing that I bring with me all the time, to shoot videos. Because why not? It has a good camera. I have audio plugged into it. It sounds decent. It looks decent. Is this the greatest thing you've ever seen? No. But is it a thing that you're seeing? Yes. And that's the goal, right? Creativity with constraint equals a real product. I wrote an actual novel that's a real thing. You can read it. And if you want to read it, I will send it to you. Let me know and I'll send it to you and you can become a beta reader. I've had about 15 people read my novel so far and offer feedback, and that's been appreciated. And so if you want to be a beta reader, I will let you read it, which is the scariest thing ever, by the way, sending your thing out into the world. But I took the creativity, I took the constraint, and I made something. And I think that really speaks to this idea of feeling overwhelmed by possibility. But the best thing that you can do for that is just to do something about it. And so if you want to make something, if you want to do something today, here's my challenge. Set a limit. Set a goal that is something you're going to have to reach for a little bit. But set a limit of when that's going to happen. Not just a goal. The goal is, I want to write a book. The limit is, I'm going to write this in the next 30 days. Find a way to keep yourself accountable. Find a friend, a spouse, someone who you can talk to, who can be like, hey, will you ask me this? Or set up a reminder on your phone every day to do it. Get a whiteboard and make a chart and make X's, give yourself gold stars. I don't know, reward yourself with coffee. That's what I would do. I would say, I'm not gonna go get coffee until I write 500 words. I write 500 words and I'll go get coffee, right? I would reward myself along the way. So set a goal, add constraint, and see what happens and make it, because the first thing you do is the worst thing you do, but you've done it. And that's the part that counts. I'm trying to do that in more areas of my life as well, not just with creativity. I'm trying to shift that to other areas of my life, like fitness and nutrition and taking care of myself, because I'm 30 and I have to do that now. And maybe I haven't done that as well before, but it's got to happen. I'm trying this in my life. I hope that you will too. Maybe you're watching this or listening to this and you think, I'm not creative. And that's not true. You are creative. You are capable and able to create. Maybe you just need to give yourself a little bit of constraint and push yourself to do it. And to put that thing out there. You have no idea what the things you make can do for other people. Set some constraints and go out and do something about it.